What's up, guys? I'm Ben, leader of Grassroots Drift Team, Kame Trick, and in today's episode of my Rad 240 is somehow broken again. We are trying to figure out what's wrong with it this time. So if you watched my last video, you'll know I just fixed an alternator problem where it's pretty strange. I've never seen this before, but the charge post on the back apparently threads in and it came loose and it quit charging. So as soon as I got that fixed, I knew it was low on gas, so I put about 2 gallons in it and it started running great. I cut the video short so you'll see this in the video from last time, but I let it run for 4 or 5 minutes and got some stuff together and then I shut it off. Everything was perfect. It seemed awesome. The charging system was working. So I loaded it up to go to a little car hangout that was happening near the house because I haven't street driven the car in a while, and especially after all this trouble I was ready to do that. As soon as I got to the edge of the driveway after loading it up, of course, it immediately started running terribly and then just shut down. And so I actually had to push it back into the garage. Was a little bit frustrated about all that, but it hasn't really run since. That was just yesterday. So I tried to start it a few more times today. Didn't really seem like anything wanted to happen. So I'm going to have to take a closer look and figure out, is it, air, fuel, or spark? It's got to be one of those three, or like a sensor. Something is going on here. Also, as a result of yesterday's video, I now have to take my multimeter along with me everywhere I go. This thing's going to be my ride or die companion for the rest of the year because apparently electrical issues are what's going to finally be the downfall for this car. It's been super reliable for so many years. I've been drifting this car since 2003. Back in the day, I was, like 18, 19, and I would street drive it to events that were 4 and 5 hours away in other states. Drift it all day long. This was in the KA days, so it wasn't the most difficult car to keep going. But, drift all day long, just rip on it, and then drive it all the way home. Never have any concerns at all. And it's only broken down a few times. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on it so that if the charge system quits working in the future, I'll be able to catch it and hopefully get home or at least figure out a game plan so I don't find myself stranded halfway to the house. I've also picked up this to help me out. This is a loaner tool from AutoZone. It is a OBD2 DTC checker for engine trouble codes. So I'm going to start by checking and seeing if there's any trouble codes, and if not, I'm going to do a couple of the other standard things, and hopefully we can figure out what is going on and get the car running again, because I have a drift event this coming Saturday. That's in like 5 days, and I don't want to miss it. Here's the scan tool, and if you don't know about these, you are sleeping. You can pick these up from your parts shop of choice, and you can basically use them for free. You have to pay full price for the item, and then if you return it, you get a full refund, no tax, no nothing. So you do need to have some money in your account. This thing was about 150, 160 bucks, but now I can use it to test out my car. And how you use it, it's got 2 ends, so one end goes into here, and they're different, so you know that you'll get them correct. Screw them in. And then the other end, which is this end, goes into your vehicle's OBD2 port if you have one. Best thing I've done about this LS swap is the fact that I now have OBD2, and it can make troubleshooting things a little bit easier, especially if you have a big problem. Alright, so here's my OBD2 port right here, and it's a little bit of a stretch, but I'll just plug this in, and it should activate the tool automatically. There it goes. So the tool is gonna not be able to read, but there we go. It's going to scan an auto link. You then take the key and put it into the ignition and switch it to the on position, but don't start the car. It should automatically sync up, but you may have to tell it what vehicle you're in. So you can go through the menu, select new vehicle. It's going to have you select a year. So you're doing this based off the engine. So for me, I'm going to do a 2002 Chevy Camaro, the V8, 5.7 liter. It's going to ask manual or automatic. And then you select, yes, this is your vehicle. And now we can look and see if there's any codes. So, not a whole lot to go on there. There are no powertrain, DTCs, or freeze frame data stored in the vehicle's computer. The monitors at the top indicate certain things are green, which means they passed their test, and then a few things are not. So air, O2 sensors, and HTR, which I had to read up on this. That's the oxygen sensor heater, or the heated oxygen sensor, however you say that. But in any case, no trouble codes for me right now. I don't know if that's because I have had the negative terminal of the battery disconnected earlier to do the alternator repair and it just hasn't logged any codes, or if everything's good. So it's kind of a bummer that I didn't come up with any trouble codes here, but it didn't cost anything to check, so it's always a good thing to do if it takes very little time and costs no money to check. Next up, we have to look at the basics to try and figure this out, which is going to be air, fuel, and spark. If you don't have all three of those things, your gas-powered engine is not going to be able to run. And it could be something very obvious, like for spark, if you have a broken spark plug. Or it could be something less obvious, like if you have a damaged sensor or something has come unplugged. You're not going to find like a mechanical issue, and it may still cause the car to behave as though something were mechanically broken. So I'm going to take a few passes looking at the car and try some things out. We'll see if anything turns up. So I think I've found the start of the problem, at least. When I was testing a few different things, I went to start the car, and one thing you can always do, at least with older cars, is listen for the fuel pump to come on. It makes a pretty distinguishable sort of whirring sound for the first couple of seconds when you put the key into the on position before you start the car, and it's awfully quiet. See, we should be hearing a like zzz type of noise coming from back here. So I'm pretty sure we'll do it one more time. Here we go. Yeah, there's nothing. It's totally quiet. So we know that at least one problem that we've got is that we have no fuel. Now the question is it because the pump went bad? Is it because a fuse has blown? Or is it because the wiring has somehow become compromised, like a ground is missing, or it's like rubbed through and separated or something like that? Fuses are probably the easiest thing to check, so I'm going to start by looking at the fuses, which means we have to go under the hood. Electrical repair is not my strong suit, so I'm hoping it's something kind of easy. Let's see, I need the multimeter, and we'll check the fuses. Since we know the fuel pump isn't working, we're going to start by checking the fuses for the fuel pump. I'll just check all the fuses in that area while I'm at it. And all of those fuses live right here under this box. So this is the main concern, this 10 amp fuel pump fuse. I've already loosened that just because it's a pain to get off one-handed. So that's going to be this fuse here, but let's go through and check all of them. To check the fuses, there's a few different ways you could go about it, but if you have a multimeter, you can do a continuity test. So I'm going to set my multimeter to ohms, and ohms, I got to turn it sideways to catch the light, is that little horseshoe looking icon. I'll turn the light on here and try to set this up to where we can see it a little bit. It's not too bad. Alright, so it's starting with M ohms, and it's reading OL for overload. This is a self-adjusting unit, so as you put the contacts together, it'll actually adjust to whatever it needs to. When we touch these together, we'll see that it starts range finding, and it's going to drop down from M to K to just plain old ohms, which is a low amount, and we are seeing this low number because there is continuity. Electrical current can flow through this. So as long as we touch two pieces of metal together and we get a similar low number as to when we touch these directly, then we know that current is flowing through them. That would tell us that a fuse was fine. But if it doesn't flow, then it's going to read this high number like overload, or it's going to read a much higher number, something in the M or K vicinity, and that's going to tell us that there's some sort of problem with that fuse, and we can pull it and check it. It's a lot easier and less jarring on the fuses themselves than pulling them all and looking at them and putting them all back. Way faster. Here's how you test your fuses. So each fuse has two little metal pieces sticking up right here. Those are the tips of the two blades that plug in down there. And if you take your leads on your multimeter, it doesn't matter which way you do it, but if you touch them to these ends, you'll see that the multimeter will range, and it finds just a couple of ohms of resistance there. So that means this fuse is good. Electricity is flowing. We'll check the next one. This is the fuel pump one. Okay, I'm not getting any change. It's still reading overload. That's no electricity flowing. Let's check the next one. That's a good sign for me. Because, yeah, this one's fine. I'm just going to move through and check the other ones. So that one's fine. That one's fine. This is a very good sign for me because changing a fuse is far easier than changing a fuel pump or sorting out an electrical gremlin. That tells us the fuel pump fuse should be blown, so I'm going to pull that out. Hopefully that's our root cause and not just a symptom of a bigger problem, but until we correct it, we won't know. So we'll grab the needle nose and pull that bad boy out. We'll grab that fuse. Sure enough, that fuse is blown. So that's great. I can replace this and hopefully it'll fix the problem. It's always good to keep an assortment of fuses. Hopefully that does it. We should know very quickly whether or not this is the fix because we'll hear the pump come on. Let's listen for it. Okay, we have to remember about the auto seat belts. Let's try that again. We did hear a noise, so that's enough for me. I'm going to open up the garage and we'll see if we can't get the car to fire up. And if it does, let it idle for a while. And if there was any sort of like air in the fuel line from it maybe being run close to dry, we can get that cycled through. Let's find out. Alright, we're up to temp and everything's still running, so that's a good sign. Let's crank on it some. Yep. Seems like everything's good. That has got this problem resolved. Let's hope the car will stay running for more than 24 hours for a change. Again, usually it's very reliable. I need it to go back to its reliable ways. I feel very lucky that it was just a fuse this time and the fuse didn't blow, so hopefully that's all that it was. Maybe some of the alternator issues caused the fuse to blow. We'll see. I'm definitely going to take it out for a couple of drives near the house. Probably tomorrow. I don't really feel like driving it in the dark on the off chance that we have to pull it back with the truck. So yeah, thank you guys for watching as always. I'm going to hop back inside and get back to my original plan, which was to finish editing the first sim drifting video. That is a thing on this channel as well. So by the time you guys see this, that one will probably already be out. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Have a good night, guys. Peace.